Hi, I'm Jennifer Chino, Senior Vice President of Monument Sotheby's International Realty and Team Lead at Staley Thompson Homes. I am so excited today to introduce my friend, Morgan Foster. She is very excited to tell you about her new company called The Pivot Process. Welcome, Morgan.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I am super excited. Please tell us about your new company. When we first met, I was drawn to Morgan because she had a blog called Divorcing Gracefully, and I just thought that was a perfect way to participate in a divorce. So I'm excited to hear about her new elevation.
Thank you. So, Jen, of course, you've known me for many, many years and know that I come from a background of being a divorce lawyer. I've been a lawyer for 20 years this year. And over that time, I practiced in a lot of high conflict, high stakes litigation, a lot of very expensive litigation. And even though I was achieving, particularly in the most recent part of my career, a lot of big wins for my clients, I felt like at the end of the day, it was really sort of a loss for the family if the family had been stuck in a high conflict adversarial situation for so long. So I was dealing with lots of sort of high net worth divorces, but also custody cases, custody modification cases, any sort of family law conflict. And the reality of the court system now is that cases go on and on for years. Mm-hmm. And often a case has gone on for quite a while before anything even gets filed, which means by the time something's filed in the first place, there may have been months or years of conflict leading up to that point. And there's a lot of data to suggest that for kids in particular, it's not divorce that is traumatic or damaging for kids, but it's actually conflict. Mm. And specifically conflict between parents. And so when kids get stuck in that conflict between parents space, particularly for a prolonged period of time, that can be what's really damaging to the children and to the family in general. I mean, it takes a real toll on parents as well.
It certainly does. And I know we sort of parallel a lot of times in the industry, and we just see the devastation that it leaves, which is why I was so excited when I first met you that you approach things differently. And I just find it really refreshing, and I feel like it's sort of a win-win for everybody. And so when you told me you had this new company, I was so excited to learn more about it because I think it's something that's definitely needed. Do you have questions that people come to you frequently with, or sort of your best piece of advice with regards to somebody who's initially going through this process?
Sure. Well, I think that, the first question that everyone has a million questions at the beginning, right? But one of the first questions that I always get is sort of like, what is the process even like? And so, one of the most important things to know is that the process is not fast and doesn't go sort of the way a lot of people, I think, expect it will go in court. In Maryland in particular, but in most jurisdictions, you're not going to have the same judge assigned to the case the entire time. So, some preliminary scheduling hearings will be in front of one jurist in the court, and then you'll see someone else who will rule on motions and someone else who may preside over the settlement conference and someone else who may preside over the trial. So frequently, whoever is the judge that you're dealing with on a given day is going to walk into the courtroom without any context, any history, any background knowledge in the case. And so what I like to encourage people to sort of think about is, if divorce is something that is facing your family, whether you're the one that chose it or not, the way to think about the process is to really focus on the next chapter and how to set both yourself and your family up for success in the next chapter. It's not about righting the wrongs of the past. And frequently, often when cases end up in court, judges don't really want to hear about who had the affair or who was unreasonable with, in this argument. So even if you were to go all the way to the trial, people really aren't going to achieve that satisfaction of like, yes, now I am deemed to be right by this judge and I can go forth and be vindicated in the rest of my life. That isn't going to happen regardless of what path you take. So, there's a certain amount of just recognizing what you can leave behind and walk away from. I mean, you talked about divorcing gracefully, which was an approach and a blog that I had many years ago, and an approach that I always tried to bring to family law. But really when I decided to start this company was after my ex-husband and I got divorced, and we did it in the way that I sort of describe in this process. So we negotiated among ourselves. We resolved things very quickly. There was not a prolonged period of conflict. And not only did I watch our children not just survive, but really thrive through the process. I mentioned to you that my 8-year-old said to me recently, I kind of forget you and Dad are divorced, Mom, until we go on vacation and he doesn't come with us.
That's important.
Which I thought was a really amazing comment because we have been apart for 3 years and he's old enough and sophisticated enough to absolutely know that. But we have such a good, healthy co-parenting relationship. And we're still modeling healthy relationship behavior more so now as co-parents than when we were in a less functional marriage to one another. So living that experience myself, even though I had helped countless people through their own divorces, living the experience myself and really seeing that it is possible to make it through in a way where you can get to the part of healing, repairing the relationship, learning how to be productive and effective co-parents with one another, and that your kids can really thrive and be healthy with a good, positive co-parenting relationship, even more so than, again, I think in my case, had we stayed married. So seeing that really convinced me that, I needed to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And instead of helping people do long, contentious divorces based in litigation, I wanted to help people find a different way to achieve the same end, but to do it in a much healthier, more positive and productive way.
Well, and I think I've heard a lot, we're staying together for the kids, but there's an alternative to that because sometimes the kids are happier in that sort of situation because the parents are happier. And so I think that offers an alternative solution. So if someone wanted to reach out to you about getting started, what could they expect from you?
So the way that I've structured it, I've done it sort of a couple things. So I run mediations myself. I also can work with other mediators.
And is that virtual or in person? And are you strictly just in Maryland?
Either one. Okay. And I can do mediations. I have helped couples mediate from London, from Saudi Arabia. So the nice thing about mediation is it's not jurisdictionally specific. I can do in-person mediations if people fly in from anywhere, but my mediation offices are in Annapolis and Easton. But I can also do virtual mediations, which, many people find, people are so used to doing business virtually now that many people find that to be effective. But what I also did is I sort of created a digital video series. So it's a little bit like Divorce 101. It's about 4 hours of content. And for everyone doing mediation with me, they start with that. Now, even if they have lawyers and they're getting their own advice from other sources, what this does is it just ensures, so both people would watch that. It's just all the basics, right? How does the process work? What are the things we need to think about? What are the financial documents we need to exchange? What are the varieties of custody schedules available? I'm also working on like a companion workbook to go with that people can use. There are documents that I provide, but I'm sort of aggregating it into a workbook now. just to make it a little more convenient for people. But what that does is it ensures that both people are coming in with at least the basics of sort of a shared neutral vocabulary about this. These are the sorts of things that you need to think about. So it helps to even like the knowledge playing field a little bit, because a lot of times, you know, in marriages, you'll have one party that's handled all the finances and then the other party that has handled all the kid stuff. So this parent knows everything about the kid stuff and what the kid's schedule is and who the pediatrician is and all those sorts of things. And the other parent knows where all the accounts are, and how much is in them. And so, you know, it's important to sort of even the playing field a little bit in terms of everyone understanding the basics of sort of the process and what to think about. And if there is a significant knowledge gap, I also will bring in experts. As you know, I bring you in often as a real estate expert if we need that sort of information. There are also financial experts that I'll bring in if one person really doesn't know how to determine what they need financially going forward, either in child support or alimony or, you know, on a monthly basis. We can bring in financial advisors. So I also bring in other neutral advisors to sort of help people, because what I've seen happen a lot is, you know, one party is sort of crippled from making an informed decision because they just don't know what they don't know. So I think if you bring in, if you have a level of transparency that you can facilitate through a neutral mediator, and you can bring in neutral advisors, you know, to participate in the process so people feel confident and able to make decisions, that helps everybody to move it along in an expedited way.
And talking about an expedited way, how long should people expect an average process to take? I know it varies depending on, but what should someone expect realistically for the process from beginning to end to take?
I think if you really want to be deliberate and methodical about getting through things as quickly as possible, I think it is certainly possible to get through the whole process and get to resolution in under 2 months.
Okay.
It obviously depends on a lot of things, and that's assuming that everybody kind of comes in with information and is willing to exchange information. Generally, I see that the best outcomes that are financially maximizing like the whole family benefit, right? Like the whole portfolio of assets that a family has, the way to sort of maximize those overall, where everybody comes out winning, is to resolve it as quickly and sort of amicably as possible. Because if you don't, you are going to have a massive amount of cash flow flowing out on both sides to lawyers, financial experts, valuation experts, accountants, you know, and, you know, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars in a contentious divorce.
Is there anything that you recommend that they have prepared or ready to go before they reach out to you, or is just reaching out to you sort of the first step?
I think reaching out to me is a good first step.
Okay.
I've designed that video series to sort of which people can start immediately. So even if they can't get onto my schedule for a couple days or a week, they can, you know, buy the video series and start right away. And that helps them to understand what they need to gather, what information they need to get, and, you know, kind of helps them to craft more specific questions in their mind for when we do connect. I did that for another reason as well, because on, you know, many lawyer schedules, it takes a minute to sort of get in. And when people find themselves in a situation where someone, maybe your spouse has sprung on you, I don't want to be in this anymore, you kind of need to talk to someone immediately. And so the video series is meant as something people can access right away to just start educating themselves about the process. And I think it tends to put people's minds at ease a little bit. You, of course, still want to have a personal connection with someone where you may talk about something specific to your case, but it's a good place to start. And then the mediation can sort of come after that, facilitating a effective negotiation on terms and resolving all issues.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, if you're interested in learning more about Morgan's company, the pivot process, we'll have all the information in the description below. Feel free to leave a question or a comment, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks,
Thank you
Morgan.
so much for having me, Jen.